This is Korea News for February 22, 2022. The quarantine authorities made a prediction that the number of confirmed cases per day could reach 270,000 at the peak of the Corona-19 Omicron mutation epidemic. The Central Quarantine Countermeasures Headquarters announced on the 21st a summary of the outlook for the COVID-19 epidemic estimated by 10 domestic and foreign research institutes. 5 institutions announced their peak forecasts, and 3 of them predicted that the number of people per day in mid/late March would range from 240,000 to 270,000. This is significantly higher than the government's initial forecast of 140,000 to 170,000. As of midnight on the 21st, there were 95,362 new confirmed cases in Korea and 2,058,199 cumulative confirmed cases. The number of critically ill patients being treated in the intensive care unit was 480, up 57% from a week ago, 306 on the 14th. If this trend continues, it is predicted that in 2 weeks there will be more than 1,500 cases of severe cases. Experts are concerned about the recurrence of the hospital bed riot that occurred at the end of last year due to the spread of the Delta mutation due to the rapid increase in critically ill patients. The quarantine authorities said that there is no need to be anxious because the rapid increase in the number of confirmed cases is the process of Corona-19 becoming seasonal flu. President Moon Jae-in said at a senior aide meeting on the same day, "The day will soon pass the peak of the Omicron epidemic," he said. On the 2nd of next month, the Ministry of Education recommended that schools flexibly conduct academic operation, including full distance learning, for 2 weeks after the start of school. As the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 continued to rise in the beginning of next month, the government's policy, "Do not be bound by regular school attendance for the new semester, and think about all remote classes for each school." Education Minister Yoon Un-hyeon presided over the meeting of the Emergency Inspection and Support Group for the new semester Omicron on the 21st, and decided to operate the 2nd to 11th of next month as adaptation week for the new semester. During this period, she made it possible to run the bachelor's program flexibly by shortening class hours or adjusting the density. She specifically ordered her to run the school with full distance learning in mind. The Ministry of Education announced on the 7th a new semester quarantine and academic operation plan. It has been recommended that schools refrain from entering remote classes. However, it changed its position early next month when the spread of Omicron mutations was expected to peak. Meanwhile, Moderna is currently developing a vaccine exclusively for Omicron and a vaccine capable of simultaneously responding to both mutations of Omicron and Delta. Clinical data for both vaccines will be available in the first half of this year, said Paul Burton, Moderna Chief Medical Officer. He said that COVID-19 is evolving so rapidly that no one can predict it, and he expects it will eventually come back without a complete end. Burton said, "I discovered the Omicron mutation in November last year, and within just a few months, stealth Omicron mutation is on the rise again. Now, the world has to acknowledge that COVID-19, like the flu, must always be vaccinated to prevent infection," he said. He predicted that he would have to get a booster shot once a year for such a preventive effect, and that eventually he would have to live with the vaccine. Regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, he explained, "The COVID-19 virus will not go away and will eventually exist, but when the majority will be able to live with the disease by vaccinating it, it will actually be an endemic." Democratic Party presidential candidate Lee Jae-Myung submitted an answer to the court asking the court to dismiss the lawsuit against the bereaved family of the murder of his nephew, whom he defended in the past. According to lawyer Lee Byung-cheol, the plaintiff's attorney, on the 21st, Lee filed an answer to the Seoul Central District Court on the same day. Here, candidate Jae-Myung Lee said, "I want the plaintiff's claim to be dismissed and I deny all the facts of the plaintiff's allegations." He added, "The defendant is investigating the facts to prepare a specific answer, and will submit a detailed preliminary document on the cause of the claim as soon as the specific facts are identified." Previously, on May 8, 2006, the nephew of presidential candidate Lee Jae-Myung visited Mr. A's home in Gangdong-gu, Seoul, and wielded a weapon he had prepared in advance to kill Mr. A's spouse and daughter. In the process, A jumped off the balcony of the fifth-floor apartment to avoid Kim and was seriously injured. Presidential candidate Lee Jae-Myung served as a lawyer for the first and second trials of his nephew Kim. At the trial, he argued that Kim was mentally and physically weak, but it was recently re-examined and controversial. Kim was sentenced to life imprisonment in both the first and second counts, and withdrew the appeal, and the verdict was confirmed. In response, victim A filed a claim for damages of 100 million won in December last year, saying that presidential candidate Lee Jae-Myung recently suffered psychological pain by referring to his nephew's murder on social media as date violence. When presidential candidate Lee Jae-Myung did not submit an answer even after being served with a complaint, the court decided to render a first-instance sentence on the 17th of next month without pleading. However, as presidential candidate Lee Jae-Myung issued an answer that day, there is a possibility that the sentencing date will be delayed. During the retreat of the North Korean army that invaded South Korea during the Korean War on the 25th of June, a survey result showed that more than 1,000 Christians and Catholics were massacred. It is through a study on the persecution and genocide of Christians before and after the Korean War, which the Committee for Reconciliation of History for Truth Reconciliation recently commissioned by Professor Park Myung-soo's team at Seoul Theological University. At that time, the widespread genocide was accomplished under the official order of the North Korean authorities, which have pursued a policy of extermination of religion. The damage was particularly severe in Chungcheongnam-do, Jeollabuk-do, and Jeollanam-do. A total of 1,145 people were killed, including 1,026 Christians and 119 Catholics. According to this report, on September 26, 1950, right after the UN forces landing at Incheon, the North Korean authorities issued an order to retreat after removing the reactionary forces. It is said that bloody massacres took place across the country for about a month after that. On the 21st, the Courier Union affiliated with the KCTU held a large-scale rally in which about 2,000 people participated while evading quarantine rules amid the Omicron pandemic and continued illegal occupation of CJ Logistics headquarters for the 12th day. The number of outdoor gatherings is limited to 299 due to the coronavirus, but they held a trick assembly in which they evaded quarantine rules by borrowing the form of an election campaign of a progressive presidential candidate. Korea Express said, the union members frequently take off their masks during illegal occupation, and 7 or more people gather to eat and drink, etc. This Courier Union crisis is showing signs of prolongation as some politicians join the presidential election phase. However, the police are still drawing a line on the use of force, saying, it is a labor management issue. Since December 28 of last year, the Parcel Delivery Union has been on strike across the country for the 56th day, demanding that the increase in parcel fees be distributed fairly. On this day, in Cheonggye Plaza, with more than 2,000 members of the Delivery Union, the National Delivery Workers' Congress was held. In reality, it was an illegal assembly that violated quarantine rules, but the police, the Seoul Metropolitan Government, and the Yonggu office only looked at the assembly. This is because the Courier Union brought a campaign car with an election poster of Kim Jae-yeon, a progressive candidate running for president, and disguised it in the form of an election campaign. This is taking advantage of the fact that, according to the quarantine guidelines, there is no limit on the number of participants in the election campaign. A union member who came to the podium said, candidate Kim said that throughout the presidential election campaign, he provided a car for the delivery workers to let their voices be heard. On the 19th, in the same way, they held a rally of 500 people in Cheonggye Plaza. Some politicians, including independent lawmaker Yoon Seok-yeol, also attended and supported the claim of the Parcel Delivery Union. There were also allegations that Courier Union members occupied the Korea Express headquarters and then violated quarantine rules one after another. Korea Express said, until recently, dozens of union members occupied illegally were not only sleeping together, but also drinking alcohol and sharing food, etc., and continued to violate quarantine rules. Korea Express is requesting the government to inject public power every day. A representative of Korea Express said, the accumulated loss of the company is increasing to around 10 billion won due to the occupation of the company by the labor union, but neither the government nor the police said there was no movement. Kim Sol-ji, president of the non-union union, said, the current union seems to have become a group that exists above the laws of the Republic of Korea. However, there are no organizations that are actively responding. Regarding the violation of quarantine rules, an official from the government's Central Disaster Response Headquarters said, imposing fines for negligence is under the jurisdiction of the Ward Office. An official from the Yonggu office said, it is right for the company to maintain order inside the building. The police said that they are investigating 25 union members on charges of breaking into the Korea Express headquarters without permission and breaking the door. On the 15th, it said that it had requested the first attendance of 8 people, including the chairman of the parcel delivery union. Nevertheless, there are no plans to take action to end the illegal occupation. The police position is that it is difficult for investigative agencies to determine whether the union's actions are legitimate industrial action, as the lawsuit is ongoing. At the presidential election court television debate hosted by the National Election Commission on the 21st, a transcript of the conversation with Kim Man-bi, the major shareholder of Daewoo, became an issue. When Democratic Party presidential candidate Lee Jae-Myung attacked Yoon Seok-yeol using a passage about presidential candidate Yoon Seok-yeol in the transcript, he counterattacked that the word Lee Jae-Myung Gate appeared in the transcript. Candidate Jae-Myung Lee then said, make a recording Myung Gate, October 26, 2020, in the monthly chosen March issue of Kim Man-bi's transcript. It seems to be believed, so he said that the capture of the recording would be released. In addition, in the previous article, it was explained that it was not disclosed to protect the reporters. The transcript recorded the conversation dated October 26, 2020 between Mr. Kim Man-bi, who participated in the development of Daejang-dong, and accountant Jong Young-hak. In the recorded conversation, the hard-to-hear parts were silenced, but the expression because of Lee Jae-Myung's gate from Kim Man-bi's mouth was clearly included in the recording. In the discussion that took place earlier that day, candidate Yoon addressed candidate Jae-Myung Lee, saying, you talked about democracy and economic development, but you don't talk about the allegations of embezzlement of public funds from the Jae-Yonggi governor's corporate card that appear in the media every day. He said that democracy is to properly investigate and take responsibility for this, and to encourage people's will to work in this way is fundamental to economic development. Candidate Jae-Myung Lee then said, since you said that, I prepared this, but I didn't want to show it, so I took out the panel and said I had to show it. On the panel, there was a recording of Kim Man-bi, the major shareholder of Daewoo. On January 29, the YouTube channel Open Sympathy TV released a transcript of what Mr. Kim, a key figure in the alleged Daejang-dong development preference, spoke to accountant Jong Young-hak, owner of No. 5 in Chunhue-dong. Candidate Lee said, Yoon Seok-yeol will die when a warrant is issued. Yoon Seok-yeol is a person with many sins. If I have a card, Yoon Seok-yeol is dead. Have you heard of this? He explained that it was a transcript of Kim's prosecution. Regarding this, candidate Yoon said, what about Daewoo? They are talking about the transcript of calls between Kim Man-bi and Jong Young-hak, an accountant. I've never seen a person named Jong Young-hak. He said, if you go to the end of the transcript, they say it's called Lee Jae-Myung Gate. In a notice during the debate, the Democratic Party's election committee said, candidate Yoon Seok-yeol said that Kim Man-bi and Jong Young-hak were close to Lee Jae-Myung. He said it was a clear lie. In the Democratic Party's presidential primary, Lee Nak-Yeon, former chief of public affairs at the camp, former Prime Minister Jeong Un-hyeon, abruptly declared his support for the People's Strength presidential candidate Yoon Seok-yeol on the 21st. At the time of the primary, former Chief of Staff Jeong has been openly criticizing Democratic presidential candidate Lee Jae-Myung on broadcasting and social media. Director Jeong posted on Facebook this morning, "Now I'm going to go a different path. I am trying to help candidate Yoon Seok-yeol, the people's power," he said. "Recently, I met candidate Yoon through an acquaintance who knew both sides well, and I was embarrassed to receive a request from candidate Yoon, but I finally accepted it," said Jeong. He said. He continued, "It is difficult for me to understand the behavior of famous people from the progressive camp, who have both morality and reform, to support candidate Jae-Myung Lee, who is symbolized by 4 criminal offenses thugs de Jang Dong lies, that is, as a leader with fatal flaws." He emphasized that if he insisted that Lee Jae-Myung support is good and Yoon Seok-yeol support is evil, this is a vulgar faction logic and deserves criticism. As some said, "I said I'd rather have a planned president than a monster president that is unpredictable." On the 18th, Lee Nak-Yeon, chairman of the Election Countermeasures Committee, said, "It is said that what happened during an election campaign in the Suncheon area had a decisive influence on Jeong's change of mind." Rep. Lee Byung-hoon, another close aide to Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon, told Yonhap News on the 21st, "There was an incident where Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon spoke in support of candidate Lee Jae-Myung during an election campaign in the Suncheon area on the 18th, but suddenly turned on the music when candidate Lee Jae-Myung was coming." However, as the video spread on social media, the backlash from supporters of Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon grew. Jeong said that he understood that he informed Chairman Lee on the 19th after making a decision using this case as an excuse. Next, lawmaker Lee said, "Chairman Lee said, is it okay to do that?" Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon campaigned for candidate Lee Jae-Myung in Suncheon, Jeollanam-do on the morning of the 18th. However, while Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon was giving a speech, the Lee Jae-Myung election song came out and the flow was cut off. Chairman Lee Nan Station looked at the on-site staff once and joked, "Isn't the power of the people here and there?" Then he naturally continued his speech. However, a few minutes later, Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon's speech was interrupted again. Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon asked the citizens to shout Lee Jae-Myung 3 times, and the citizens shouted Lee Jae-Myung, Lee Jae-Myung, Lee Jae-Myung. Then, when Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon picked up the microphone and tried to speak, he said, "The election song for Lee Jae-Myung has come out." The atmosphere quickly became dull. Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon made a finger gesture as if asking the staff to turn off the song, but the song continued to flow. Soon after, candidate Lee Jae-Myung took the stage. Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon brought the microphone to his mouth to introduce candidate Jae-Myung Lee, but this time the microphone was in trouble. Here, the moderator unwittingly proposed a photo performance to the citizens, and Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon put a mic in his jumper pocket. The video filmed at the time quickly spread online, and the supporters of Chairman Lee Nak-Yeon were outraged that it was Lee Nak-Yeon's disgraceful video. The supporters responded, "I'm so upset, who treats the team like that? It's not polite, I can't even watch the video. If you're going to talk about the team, at least treat it properly, isn't this just a disgrace?" As the criticism grew, the Democratic Party's General Election Director Woo Sang-ho posted on Facebook on the 19th, "In the course of the campaign in Suncheon, Lee Nak-Yeon's speech was interrupted. I apologized for saying that." He added, "As the previous chairman Lee Nak-Yeon did not take issue with it and understood it as an error in the process, we will take strict measures to prevent this from happening in the future." Thank you for watching today. Please like and subscribe.